Hi and welcome back to MDriven. I'm gonna replicate the Facebook user interface. So just gonna create a view model Facebook lookalike, creating some placing containers. And we need the graphics from here, and I've learned the hard way that this is a pretty good way to get the right sizes and everything. Just have two paints and copy from one and resize the image in the other one. And there's quite a few buttons, but we need each button as its own image in order to make them clickable and responsive. So the aim here is to mimic the responsiveness that Facebook has when we resize the window. So a few more to go, and it's a good practice to just name the images so that it's easier for you to find them later, but there's no requirement to do so, of course. So it's really easy to just copy and paste straight into the view model editor. And if we watch the original Facebook, how it works, it has some of the columns resize in the middle and some stay at the side. So I'm gonna replicate that by having 3 child placing containers within the first placing container. And we need to justify this content, and the one in the middle should grow actually in order to take up the space. So we set grow parameter on that one, and now it seems okay in the designer. So let's start it up in the prototyper. Yeah, and let's turn off the menu bar and sidebar to get a better look. Let's see if, yeah, there's something else going on right about the middle icons fold and just turn into a menu at 700 pixels width of the view. So let's mimic that as well, because ours doesn't do that. And how we would go about that is to add a new I'm just gonna add a client screen with variable and show that on in a text field so that we can see that we get the information back on the size. So right about here we should switch to hide the ones in the middle and just show the menu icon instead. So adding yet another placing container and moving that up. Should be, it's easier to just move down here because we don't want it to be inside the other one. And then we take the menu and make a copy of that one. We can use the same image but not the same name, menu 2. And now the visible expression for this placing container should be the client screen width should be less or equal to 700. And just copying that expression and heading over to the other placing container holding the ones in the middle. Yeah, now they hide, but this one is not, it's grabbing the space that becomes available and we don't want that. That's probably because yeah, we have justify content on the outer, but this one, the new, should grow to swallow up the space that becomes available. So the ones at the left side are still. Right, look at that. That's pretty good. So compare that with the original. Let's pull that down and pull that up, and F12 on this one as well. So one thing I see is that I want some padding around this placing container. So I'm just gonna give that a name and let it behave as an expression, because placing container styles is always expressions. I'm gonna add some padding, 7, and reloading. I don't see any padding. How come? Whenever I don't see anything, I'll try to make a bigger change for sanity check. I'm gonna add a color here and have a background, a fill color on it as well, to see if I can see. And you can use the same name as the style for design. Let's see if, yeah, now I see both the padding and the colors. I don't know what was wrong before. Yeah, maybe a bit more padding, and we do away with the color, then we will be almost done with that part, I think. More padding and color gone. Yeah, so that's okay. Now this then, the background image. Well, let's do a row below, a new placing container, and pasting in the background image on that, calling it background. And this shouldn't have a label, and we should move it up, and it should also be centered. And I think I want a background on this placing container. Let's call it black background. And yeah, remember this needs to be an expression, so I'm gonna just return a string. Black background on the placing container, and defining a new color, black, and can name it to better identify it. So a black color on that one, something like that. Okay, yeah, but the original one is limited in size, about 960, so I'm gonna change this to 960. Yeah, something like that. All right, this one, just gonna copy that image as well, and you guessed it, yet another placing container is needed to keep this one, but adding that, moving it up, moving it in, and we're off screen, zooming out. This one should be centered as well, and it shouldn't have a label on it, and should be smaller, still smaller. something like that, 200. Okay, now we see that the content in the outer placing container is wrong, right? Shouldn't spread out like that. We should align it to start, I guess, like so. And this one should be up, so a negative margin on that one to get it up and above. And refreshing this one. Yeah, and it's centered. Good. Yes, now we need to have a frame around it, a border, and make it round. So the roundness is dependent on the size of it, so I'm going to call it round 200, and the whole component is addressed by this border. Let's make that 6, and the border radius 100, because the picture was 200, so half of that, creating a new color, white, setting that on the border, and like that. So now they are pretty much alike. Of course, I've just spent 10 minutes on this, so you can imagine that the Facebook developers have put in a lot more hours. So how about this button? Because now we just have static images, and you actually want to be able to display an image from the database rather than just a static file. So adding a placing container on top and making float in parent, so that we can add a action on top of the image. I call that change photo, and giving that an icon. Yeah, let's take that camera icon, like that. And we don't need a text, so it's just a camera, and we want it to be aligned to the end, and at the end there as well. Then we want to have margins to pull it in, like 30 or something. And let's see what we should do. Let's bring up a new view model and call it pick photo. Just gonna add nothing to this, to just something to, so that we can see it. We need some action to bring this up, but I'm gonna do that as a view model action from within this one. So pick photo and brings up the view model, and the root object on that view should be self, but self doesn't exist on view model actions, so we need to take the current one and say that it's a modal window that pops up on top, and connect the button to the navigating action, because the buttons normally don't have navigation capability. So yeah, right. Having done that, we need to actually replace this one so we can make use of this functionality. Data is URL in static text, but we change it to data as blob with PNG. And let's say that we have a property background image, but we don't, so we're going to add that one, and we say that that's a blob. And like that, and then we can, let's see, we should in this pic photo we can add the blob, making that a little bigger, the background image blob. And on this one we have it as well, background image. So what's up now? It's nothing. And then if we upload an image, yeah, let's take, okay, now I see that I forgot to state that it's actually an image in the background. So the control just shows up as a blob picker, really. So we can set the blob type on this attribute to being image, and then this one will render differently, I believe. So now it renders, I can upload a photo. It's still pretty small photo. Let's try with something bigger. This one. Alright, and we can change it to back to the original. Yeah, that was a Facebook lookalike. If you want me to do another one of some other service, let me know in the comments. And remember to subscribe and like if you like it, so that we can get some spread on this. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.